Okay, section 8-8 is special products. So we've been multiplying. We've been multiplying a monomial times a binomial. If you remember, a monomial is one term. So a monomial times a polynomial, where we just distribute. We've done a binomial times a binomial, where we can use the FOIL method. And we've seen a polynomial times a polynomial, so 2x plus 1 times x squared minus 3x plus 4. And again, we have to distribute the first term and then the second term. So these are the multiplications that we've been doing. We're going to look today at some special products. The first one is called the square of a sum. You notice that we have a plus b squared. Now, I know I've said this in class, but listen again. A plus b squared is not equal to a squared plus b squared. Get that through your heads. That's not what we're looking at. When we have something squared, we mean that we are taking that and multiplying it by itself. Now, if I use the regular method rather than the pattern that we're going to learn today, I would FOIL this. First would be a times a, which is a squared. Outside would be ab. Inside would be ab. And last would be b squared. So we get a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Now, since these binomials are identical, we can follow a pattern. If we have something that's not identical, like 2x minus 1 times x plus 3, we have to FOIL it. But if we have x plus 3 times x plus 3, we can follow this pattern. And the pattern says to take the first term and square it. So in this case it would be x squared. Take the two terms that are side by side, ab, and multiply them together, and then multiply them by 2. And then the last term is the last thing squared. So in this case it'll be x squared plus 6x plus 9. Let's look at that over here again. Without writing them side by side, my pattern says take the first term and square it, multiply these together and multiply by 2, and then square the last term. So let's do another one using the pattern instead of using FOIL. So let's see, 3x plus 4 squared. So I'm going to square the first term, 3x squared, 2 times the terms multiplied together, 2 times a times b, there's my pattern, plus the last term squared. If I then simplify this, I get 9x squared plus 24x plus 16. Let's try another one and try and knock out the in-between step. Let's do x plus 7 squared. So square the first term, multiply these together and multiply by 2, square the last term. That's as quick and easy as it is. Try this one on your own. We'll do 3x plus 1 squared. Alright, pause for a moment and see if you can do it. Okay, the first term squared, 3x times 3x is 9x squared. Multiply these together, I get 3x and double that. And then square 1 times 1 is 1 squared. So there's our first pattern, the square of a sum. When I have a sum squared, this is the pattern to get my solution. Remember, I can always FOIL it, but we're going to learn these special patterns and they're going to come in really handy when we start doing something called factoring polynomials. All right, let's try the next one, the square of a difference. Very similar, but we have a subtraction sign. And again, a minus b squared is not a squared minus b squared. Do not do that. So a minus b squared. Again, if we do it using our FOIL, we'd get first is a squared, outside negative ab, inside negative ab, and last would be negative b times negative b is positive b squared. So a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. And that's our pattern. Very similar to the last one, except instead of a plus sign in the middle, we get a minus sign. So let's try a few of these. Let's do 4x minus 2 squared. So a squared, that's 4x times 4x. Negative 2ab, that's multiplying these two together. 4x times 2 is 8x. And then multiplying 8x times negative 2, negative 16x. And then negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Notice that this negative sign does not come into play. That's part of the pattern. And I'm just taking the a and the b and multiplying them together and doubling them to get the middle. All right, try this one. X minus 6 squared. And come on back when you have it. So the first term squared. I don't know where this hand keeps coming from. Okay. Well, I can't get back to my pen. Give me a second. Let's try switching slides. No. All right. There we go. All right, so the first term squared, a squared is x squared in this case. Multiply x times 6 to get 6x and double it. So negative 12x. And then 6 times 6 is plus 36. Okay? We have one more pattern, and we'll practice some of these in class as well. This is the product of a sum and a difference. This is a very special kind of binomial. When you have anything that's identical, AB, x to y, x to y, and one is plus and one is minus, these are called conjugate binomials. They're a special pair of binomials that have the same first and last terms but different signs. When I multiply conjugate binomials together, let's see what happens. So if I have a plus b times a minus b, and I FOIL it, a times a is a squared, a times negative b is negative ab, a times b is positive ab, and b times negative b is negative b squared. Look what happens to those. Boy, this is jumping around tonight. Look what happens to those middle two terms. Negative ab plus ab, that becomes 0. Every time with a conjugate binomial, the OI, the middle part of the FOIL, disappears. So all we have to do is take the first term, square it, the last term, square it, and put a negative sign in between. So let's try a few. Let's try x minus 3, x plus 3. Again, you can FOIL it to confirm our answer, but since they are conjugate binomials, same first and last terms, one with a plus and one with a minus, all I have to do is square the first, put a subtraction sign, and square the last, and I am done. This is a really important pattern. Again, when we start to do factoring of polynomials, this pattern is really important. So try this one as well. 2x minus 3 times 2x plus 3. Notice the pattern. The first terms are the same, the last terms are the same, 1 plus, 1 minus, that's a conjugate binomial. To multiply conjugate binomials, I multiply the first times the first, 4x squared, put a minus sign, multiply the last times the last. That's it for this video. Pretty short and simple, but we will look at these patterns a little bit further in class.